Finance Committee meeting. Today is January 15th. I have it is 5 after 6. And in attendance today, we have Peter Matusko, myself, Amy Biden, Shardul Parmar, and Andy Kopacki. Paul Benjamin might be joining us later, unsure. We will see. Let's see. So today we do not have any minutes to go over today. I don't have any extra minutes. So today we don't have any extra information either from either Mike Mason or Linda. So the information they gave us at the last meeting is still the same. They're compiling more. So we still have the same type of information. This is a good info session we can for discussion. I put a lot of things out here, and what I thought we could just talk. And so we could talk about, jump in and talk about how we're gonna fund some of these things. It's just open discussion for tonight. The other topics that I have on here for discussion, such as, other sources of revenue, housing could be more sources of revenue, new businesses coming to the area. I wanna talk about the fiber project that we wanna talk about in the solar. DPW is another project that that's happening, so we want to just touch base on that. I put Hadley Media in here too, and I just mentioned that because that's always, we need to keep that going because what's going to happen when we lose some of the cable subscriptions, and so we have to look at how we're going to fund that in the future. And then I think we should just set some meetings, and then that's it. So it's just nothing formal, it's just open discussion. So where do we want to start? Any particular?
Well, I can talk briefly about the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That I presented to folks. I was just playing around with it a little bit. I haven't sent it out yet because I thought we might have more modifications for numbers, etc. But if you guys still have that, I don't have copies to hand out to everybody.
That's okay. I have the numbers from the last time you handed them out.
But basically, we're looking at the last two columns on the right, where I have a percentage growth and then I have a weighted growth.
Okay.
And the percentage growth was from 25 to 26 in strictly jump from, I'm sorry, that was actually from 23 to 26. And that was just from the overall jump in percentage. The total growth, the numerical growth is in the next column. And what I was considering doing would be to sort these to some extent somewhere else on the page because it'll mess up the order, or at least try to highlight where are we looking at. If we take the weighting, again, what I was talking about, if a small department is $5,000 and they go up, $3,000, that's a huge percentage growth. But when you have a multi-million-dollar department and that goes up, $500,000, from a percentage-wise, it doesn't stand out. But from dollar-wise, it certainly does.
Well, here's the thing on some of that. I think that sometimes they'll have a huge percentage growth in 1 year, but it's for a special thing. It's a one-time deal, right? They know something's coming up. You'll see, like, for instance, the clerk, when it's a big election year, she'll have a big spike that election year, and then it'll go back down to normal. So sometimes I think what could happen is there might be a spike in something because it's a one-time thing, and we don't ever go back. You might get a spike and then it stays the high, right? So we want to look at that.
Yeah, and to that point, and to your point, maybe we just focus on some of the big ticket items that based on your analysis, just focus on and maybe do 2-3 year average or something that we can see. Okay, it's tracking. It's not the blip that you're talking about. It's actually tracking higher as it goes along. But I think based on this weighted growth, I think your point is that we're not going to focus on those blips anyway.
Right. And this is over the 5-year span. So unless the growth was, 25 to 26, the big jump there.
I'm just saying if one thing popped up and it was odd, we could probably.
Well, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet's good at presenting the data, and to try to do standard deviations between every year and every budget, I could spend a lot of time on this. This is why I want.
What I thought though is because we could see some of these spikes, we could see and then explain what it is that the spike is from.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was a spike in, let's say the fire department, well, they went 24/7. And that's when that spike kind of hit in the ambulance. When did this spike, in this department, what happened in that year? Did something particularly happen? So we're looking for, and there's probably really easy explanations on all of them. On some of them, I probably have a lot of history on a lot of them. But it would be nice to see it. So this is great because we're gonna be able to see it.
Okay, well, I'll finish crunching this a little bit more and then send them around to everybody to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you,
Did you get the revenue side?
I don't think we have revenue side.
no,
No, I think you asked for it.
yeah, I haven't got a
Maybe,
follow up on that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because Linda could I can get it, but Linda's will probably be more accurate because when I get stuff in my past, right, as I get them I've been doing it for so many years, but then it's draft 1, draft 2. So she actually has, because sometimes when I'm going through my emails, I'm like, is this the last one?
Well, that's why I asked for actuals.
Yeah.
Before the last meeting, because we had all of our voted on, but that was what she was presenting, or what we were getting before, and I asked for actuals, and she sent me all the actuals.
Yeah.
So those are actual.
Yes, up until this year, which is obviously a forecast year. So, but anyway, she was good enough to give me all that information, and I was able to extend the time period rather than just 2 years. So we're going back to 21 because 20 is
Right.
Not the best year.
Not the best year to use
Yeah.
as a gauge.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
that's
yeah, I
right.
would ask her revenue if and especially if she hasn't broken down by source.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that the rates have changed for sewer anyway.
Yeah.
And it's starting to kick in, and so you should see some of those changes. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be helpful. Really helpful.
But I mean, it does lead it into the discussion about alternative sources of revenue.
Right. So, one of the things is we did talk about the solar, and being on the solar, I thought when we have things that we think about, we should bring them to your attention so you can bring them back to solar.
Yeah.
Peter, are you seconding there or at the solar?
Yes, that was going to be the second.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that.
No, you're.
Oh, yeah,
No, because I have, because I know a lot of it before, the thought was to putting it onto the dump, but we were supposed to, or aren't there channels that we have to go through, or a set of lines we're supposed to go through where, okay, does the state or the EPA first approve the site for the dump? Isn't that the first thing before we jump into it? And then after, has there been knowing of how much the town uses for electricity as to how big of a system do we really need? How many megawatts do we need to cover for the power for this town? And if there's going to be potentially for the high school, if that goes to heat pumps, make sure that it's sized for 125%, because if it's at 90% right now, we have to think about the future of whatever buildings are going to be, which could potentially be the high school. So saying 125%. And how many acres do we have there at the dump that would be set on for solar? Because
Right now it's half, right? I think they presented roughly.
Yeah, I think, and when you look at it from, obviously it's a kind of a hockey stick shaped
Yeah.
mound. The north side won't be used as much. I mean, I would look at the revenue as we want to maximize the site as much as we possibly
Yeah.
can. And before you hit diminishing returns, obviously you get on that north side, you know, they usually, they have their own math, but there's a certain point where some of those panels that are on the shoulders really, that's more of a question for the committee as to whether or not it's worth investing in some of those.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, I think you know, it's definitely looking at future capacity. If we don't build it, looking at least making sure we have the infrastructure for future capacity, if we need it, because it could be it could be, you know, to Peter's point, it could be a state, you know, phase one, be a phased approach. We don't have to go and build everything right away. We can go and do it in a phased approach. The other thing that I would say, you know, just based on our experience with kind of doing a larger array is that, you know, one of the things I'll be definitely focusing on is really the kind of the warranties and the long-term maintenance of this, because inverters go bad, then you lose. It's a double-edged sword because you're losing production, and you're going to have to pay for the replacement. And you know, those are some of the things that I'm going to be also thinking about, because
Good.
it's definitely something that we've had in the 5 years, 6 years that we've been operating ours. We've definitely had a decent share of inverters going bad.
And because you own them, you're paying for them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing, is it worth it to us? We might not be getting that much of a return from owning it
Yep.
ourselves, as to leasing, all the expenses are on them.
And what's the estimated lifespan? Because, I mean, we've installed, you know, 505 kilowatts, and that, you know, the inverters, that's a 20-year lifespan, but the inverters are more like 8 to 10.
10 to 15. You
Yeah.
know, I'm on the line of mine, I don't have much at all, but like you said, what does it cost to pay for having those inverters replaced, as to, because I looked into it, for an acre, depending on the size of the panel and the output of the panel, whatever it gets over for heat, there's about 1,000 to 1,500 panels you can put on an acre. So, in not only for the initial cost of putting it and whatever rebates we get from the state, I'm thinking about in the future of the next 25 years of what's going to cost for the recycling fees. So I was thinking about that going, and I looked it up. For recycling, one solar panel is between $35 and $65 a panel. So I figured on the average, that's $50 a panel. And if you got 1,000 panels,
And that's today's money.
and that's today's money, at, say if you got 14 or 15 acres at $50 a panel, that's almost $750,000 in 25 years for all the money that we take in, that we're gonna now have to figure out how to pay for recycling
Right.
at our own cost, unless thinking of maybe a lease, we might not be making half as much or a fraction of it, but then we gotta think
It's
about
turnkey, yeah.
for 25 in 25 years or 20 years, when all these get recycled at this day and age cost, is $50. That's $750,000. Remember during that time, during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they figured that there was that the insulation vermiculite. It was nothing, you know, it was cancerous. Then all of a sudden now, or it was nothing then. Now you got to get an abatement and what it costs for the removal of it. So who knows what the things that they're made of now, what they're going to say 25 years from now.
Right.
I mean, yeah, other things I would consider would be, you know, what if there is a containment breach on the cap? You know, if there's potential causes of that, as well as the net present value of the money. You know, if the contract says you're going to get this amount per month for 20 years, well, we know that 20 years from now, that amount is going to be a fraction of today's value.
I think it's usually based on utility rates.
Okay.
So as the utility rates typically haven't gone back, but it's there. That all needs to be factored in,
Yeah.
because it could be that, you know, again, rates go down or rates don't change much, then you're losing money because of inflation and everything else. You know, and obviously we have to look at our borrowing costs and all those other things, and probably some of that money, that revenue that we have to that will be receiving, we probably have to your point, put away for reserves for whether it's abatement or you know, for recycling them, or for really having some type of insurance policy. Because like you said, if there's something wrong with the landfill, then that means that you're losing production. You know, you're going to have some disruption of production, some disruption of income, and probably some level of mobilization to remove things out of the way, put them back. That all needs to be factored into whatever. There has to be a reserve of some kind, because it can't be something that we have to go to the town and have them, you know, we have to go. But they're all great points.
Especially given the site
Yeah.
Yeah.
and its proximity to, you know.
So we'll keep, what we can do is keep this, I'll just keep the word solar on the agenda. So if you get numbers too, if you can bring it back and let us know kind of where you're thinking. Now, the numbers that they gave us to begin with, they don't seem right, so I think that they're off. So some of the numbers I heard were the town uses about 100,000 in electricity. We were gonna get about 80,000 extra in revenues. So if that's the output from that, solar is 180,000. I'm like, okay, now how much does it cost? I remember Michael said it costs between 5 million and 6 million to put it in. So I just did a quick divide and I did 180,000 divided by 5 million. And I came up with 27 years it was gonna take.
To break even.
To break, yeah.
But I
then
think
our
that's
panels would be old.
But that's also before, I think, any type of subsidies and rebates and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But he said that's gonna offset about half of, again, this is just all projected, until everything is.
Right, so I figured that's in my head right now. Those are some of the numbers, 27 years for break. So I think there's different numbers. So when you do get
Yeah.
that information, and I'm guessing it wouldn't make any sense to do it if that was the case. So I figure there's something else to it. But
Right.
you'll find that out.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's gotta make business sense.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's the way I'm approaching it.
Right. Well, that's exactly right, and that's what we're looking for. But right now, those were the numbers that were in my head. So I'm like, well, something's off, but let's see what goes, because
Yeah.
we didn't really get into too many details. It was talked about, and it was just numbers thrown out.
Yeah, we should, you know, in hindsight, things like this, definitely, we should have been one of the first boards that they should have presented to, especially, you know, before even the select board, they should have at least presented to the finance committee to go and understand the numbers, and for us to not have a real, very abbreviated and quickly explained, it wasn't the best way of
Yeah.
the way it was presented.
And not only that, what about batteries? Are they still proposing for us to have batteries for this system?
Well, I believe this system is, when I watched when they presented, yes, because of the size. It has to do with this, because of this size, they have to have.
Backup
that-
storage.
They have battery storage.
And what's that cost?
Well, you're gonna have to-
Additional.
But I think that's included.
Oh, it's in.
You're gonna
I
need
would think,
transformers
I
to-
understand.
I think the town, I mean, the Eversource, I think provides that. So they're going to be, because that's, I think, a significant portion of that. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars just to bring the three-phase over to there. I don't think it's existing, is it?
No,
No.
they need
No.
to, it was.
So I think that was also part of the cost. But that was,
60,000 a mile, no, it was 600,000 for a mile. I
Yes,
think that was
yeah.
the number.
But that was in that cost.
that
I
was in
thought.
that cost, yeah. I think it was.
It was,
Yeah.
anyway, they've got to, you know, transform it so it'll transmit better than.
Well, when they gave me the numbers, they did say between 5 and 6 million. Now, when I divided it by 5 million. Of course, it's probably closer to 6 million, because things are all scattered.
Yeah, well,
Well, it's 2%, is it still 2% a month? I mean, that was the incremental for building cost increases?
well, PV prices have gone down, you know,
Yeah.
for whatever panel. It's definitely a lot less today than it was a year ago, but it depends on, you know, like, I think Peter made a great point that, you know, maybe there has to be some way of some plan of disposing it. So that has to be accounted for in whatever we do.
Absolutely, it's a great
Mhm.
point, it has to be full life cycle.
Turnkey, you know, what we put into it, it should be, once they're gone in 25 years, having to ask the town for more money for disposal because of something that we wanted 25 years ago, to now the future, this town's gonna have to pay for a big bill at our cost now, what's it gonna be for that later?
You know, I think the reality is it'll probably be, by that time, if everything goes well, we'll probably replace them. And whoever vendor that we probably choose, probably, hopefully, by then, has their own, you know, that infrastructure.
Of recycling of their own?
Well, I think it's something that's probably, I would think it would make sense, because then in 20 years, we're gonna have all these panels just lying around. I think a lot of that stuff does get recycled, because I think there's quite a bit of the rare earth elements and all that stuff that's in there.
Yeah, let's not go down that route.
Yeah.
So, but it's all good questions that we need answers for.
Okay, we can talk about, the other thing is the, let's jump to just DPW quickly.
Okay,
Because that is a project we spent money on already, right? We gave money.
We signed a contract with,
Right.
to get the estimated, the schematic together.
Right.
Not the full build design, but just the schematic.
And that cost,
200
200 something.
I want to say 225, but
Yeah.
don't hold me to that.
yep.
I think it was a little more than that, but,
Right.
so in the interim, the town did purchase the property and, next door, and of course that was done at, I believe, the agreement I heard, was it was matched the highest market offer and exceeded by X amount of thousands of dollars. So we did pay,
Premium.
a premium for that property, even though at one point apparently it was in tax arrears and we did not put a lien on it. Or to my understanding, that we didn't establish first right of refusal.
Okay,
But that being said, I can share that from the design standpoint, that will allow the building, program to expand enough so we don't have to have a second floor. So you get rid of that second floor, you get rid of all the structure to hold and support a second floor. You get rid of an elevator. The elevator alone is closing on $1 million.
And the maintenance on it every 3 to 6 months,
Yep.
required for inspections.
So removal of the second floor made this thing, it still makes it a no-brainer.
okay.
I have actually toured that building.
How is the elevator so expensive? That seems really high.
Well, what we had over here at Goodwin, I mean, originally they were talking about like 250,000, but that was,
Because it's only going one floor,
yeah.
and it was $1 million. Was it like a freight out?
I thought it was $1 million almost for the elevator setup, something.
That's,
But yeah, it's elevator for the service and
Whatever you
yeah,
hit,
it's
Sherjul,
expensive.
times it by like 5, because
Yeah,
that's what municipalities
that's not what
cost.
we.
Yeah.
That's what we get.
you get to hire private contractors to do your work.
well, we're
it's
supposed
gonna
to
be
be
the
on the
same.
second floor of this building.
So because the footprint would had to have been considerably smaller to allow drive-arounds and all the other goods that go with the DPW that need to be on the ground, it would have squeezed the program to allow, break rooms and restroom
Showers,
facilities and
offices.
meeting offices and stuff. That would have had to go up on the second floor, because right now the plans are to maintain the current block building that's there and reutilize that. So not knocking that part down. But, and you've got the sewer plant there, so there's only so much space to traverse with all that equipment. So that would have, but getting rid of the second floor is really a big cost savings to the project and more than offsets the purchase price. Plus it gives, makes things stretch it out.
Well, bottom line is, what we want is somewhere that our people can work in a
Comfortably.
comfortable environment. They don't, they just need the very basics. The equipment just needs, some of it just needs a cover so that it keeps the elements off it. Need the
You're right.
basic wash bay. And we don't need anything too crazy, but we need the basics to keep our equipment where it keeps the elements of the sun and the snow off of it so that they last a little longer.
So there were 3 concepts that were offered, and the committee favored one of them with a central drive-through lane. And so the designer now, the engineering firm, is going back and fleshing that one out a little bit more.
Okay. But so they started at 30 million. Hopefully now when they come back, it's quite a bit less.
Yeah, well,
You could put $500,000 into that building that they bought, have that be the offices, the showers, and the break rooms, and that's a win-win, being in that separate building, and then after having the shop being whatever additions to it.
yeah, I mean, the
Cutting
shop
costs.
is its own thing with its lifts, and then you've got parts storage, which is one thing they don't really have. Well,
Okay.
they've got it up on a mezzanine right now, just from a space standpoint, so you can imagine that, most vehicle parts are pretty darn heavy, so you've got to use trucks, fork trucks to lift stuff up and down. Now granted, that won't make it go away, but there would be a much more thought out and planned system based on existing designs, that proven setups.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is very similar to the Montague one. I didn't make it to the Montague one, but from what I heard from the guys who did, the design is similar to that.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be the fanciest, it just has to be, workable and clean.
Especially for parts that might be replaced in 6 months, to be expanding and spending so much money just for storage.
Yeah, and my big, my personal goal since going back to the building committee was to make sure that we get a wash bay, a very highly functional wash bay, because the pre-treatment that they put down on roads is extremely corrosive. And what, trucks that used to last decades now last, but truck bodies are sometimes going off in 5 years because, the way they're washing it, if they can, with a wand outside in the cold. So this is not quite like a bus wash where they can have it be totally automated.
But it's at least it's inside, so they can be a little bit more thorough when it comes to cleaning.
Right, and they can, and it's an undercarriage wash. That's really, the big thing is to have a high-powered undercarriage wash. And these systems now have to be, water reclamation. They have to use separators to take all the oil and contaminants and debris solids out, and then reuse that water. And that's all part of the design now. It's not just.
I know that's a big deal, and we need to, that obviously has to stay warm because you can't have things freeze. And you need to have the maintenance area warm so that they can work on the vehicles, but we don't have to have the entire thing heated, like a big, huge heated garage for everything, I'm thinking, because if you had everything heated, then also that's gonna kill our electric.
Well,
Or take all of.
The approach right now is a radiant floor heat, which is, very typical in these large spaces. So the floor itself is warm, creates a heat mass, and it's not like you're blowing air in and it's just, going right back up to the ceiling. It's on the bottom, it flows up, and you're able to maintain a non-freezing temperature. It's not like you're going to turn it up to 80 in the garage. But if you have a radiant heat system in the concrete,
Yeah.
I mean, you have it.
50 degrees, I have it in my shop, and it's warm at a day like today. It's warm at 50 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have, I don't have radiant heat, but yeah, for working 50 to 50 degrees is more than
Yeah,
enough.
we installed it in one of our manufacturing facilities in South Hadley. One area had radiant heat. It was so much, cut down on the dust. They cut down on, blowing things around, odor, smoke.
Yeah.
It's just,
Dry air.
But with the
Yeah.
newer designs, would they be wanting this building to be more on the green side?
well, I
When
think
it comes
if
to
you,
having
the heat plant itself is I don't know where they're going with that. I mean, that
No, I
could
mean-
in fact be a heat pump. Whatever is heating the water, the fluid in the floor, that's a separate discussion. But the actual you know, this is not gonna be forced hot air.
I'm guessing it's gonna be propane, heat pumping. For that scale would be way too much.
Yeah.
I don't think it would.
There's an extra acre of solar panels.
But
Yeah.
if you were to think of, like, offices might be something a little different, I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends upon, we're talking about, you know, this one building that's part of the program, and then the other add-ons around it. And again, I'll have greater detail on the actual design when they send it, you know, at
And
least
what,
it's
Okay.
gonna-
and what are they actually planning on covering? Like what specific equipment? Of course, if it's gonna be, you know, that pump truck that we spent so much
The
money
Vector.
on, that's gonna be indoors,
Mhm.
just for those emergencies. Yes, if that vehicle that's been just washed from the night before, or actually all those vehicles, is there just gonna be enough of room for 6 or 7 trucks? Then what's gonna happen, you know, asking those questions? What about the loader and the backhoe? I mean, the backhoe shouldn't even be plowing snow anyway. It should just be done for digging. We've already got a brand new decent fleet. We should only be plowing with all those vehicles.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping once they're done with the sand, or salt, they're putting it back in the pile and then doing the wash bay, so there's less chances, or minimizing that, or lengthening that span of those chassis and all the bodies from rotting out from all that salt. So hopefully, once they're done with their routes, they're putting it back into the salt bin and then cleaning up the trucks, because that's what's eating those things away.
Yeah, yeah. Again, that's a process question.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not coming back full.
Right.
But if they did, I don't know. I defer to the DPW guys on that. But I mean, the intention is once they're done using the truck to salt or pre-treat the roads, they're going in and getting the wash down before they're parked. So to get that corrosive stuff off.
Yeah.
And hopefully, in the long run, and the whole point of investing in there is so that we're not looking at turning over vehicles as much, because they're just getting eaten away.
Yeah, but they're getting rotted because of the salt or no undercoat. That's
Yeah.
from lack of maintenance.
Now,
Well,
one of the,
Or however it goes with the, you know, the preparations of the salt. Are they dumping the salt, then washing the bays? And of course, like you said, where it's 10 degrees outside, you know, you can only do so much and want to wash a truck after you've done 18 hours plowing and then cleaning it up. That's tough.
Well, the old days when they would take used motor oil and spray it on the frames to help.
What's wrong with that?
As a preventative, that doesn't happen anymore. So-
What's wrong with that?
well, one of the things the reason why I really too bring up the DPW project too is because we did spend the money. It is happening right now where we're talking about it. And you have that committee that you're doing, and I think that's great. And I think you're looking to present this at Springtown meeting.
Springtown meeting, yeah.
I don't want this to get pushed off because we're tight on budget. I don't want it to, because we can kick the can, and that's easy to do. But what's going to happen is it's just the numbers are going to go higher. I think we need to. This has been something we've needed to do. I don't think next year's going to be a whole lot better.
Every year we wait, you know, like I said earlier, I think the number was 2% a month at one point. I don't know. But we know that other towns that have waited, I mean, to be honest, if we were looking at it, when we were looking at it prior to COVID, you know.
That was pennies.
It was, you know, you were looking at a $10 million-ish job. And now, you know,
Yeah.
it's considerably more.
How they can
And
do that.
they're hopefully they're going to come back with the estimate based on the schematic. And then if that's settled, then we go ahead and get a cost estimate to present the town meeting for whether or not we're going to go, no-go with the full design.
Right. So I think we should continue with this discussion, and continue towards town. I don't think we should push it off.
Yeah, I mean, you hear rumors that there's maybe an attempt to push it off to secure money for other programs that are drawing the funds, but I think that it's never going to be necessarily better. We're always going to be playing from behind, and this thing is always going to cost more every year. And you know, they've been talking about it since the 80s, and the number is considerably higher now. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's talk a little bit. Hey, Alex, you want to come over and we can talk?
That's well.
So I want to talk a little bit about the fiber and Hadley Media. So I'm on one committee with Alex, and this is the,
Digital Equity Steering Committee.
that's
It's a mouthful, I know.
Digital Equity Steering Committee. We've been working on that, but at the same time we're doing that, I also have done quite a bit of research, and Alex has done quite a bit of research on doing fiber optics for the whole town, and looking at what we can do for the whole town.
Yeah.
So you want to start, Alex, and kind of like maybe you can talk about what we've been doing.
Right, so right now we are trying to go through the, what do we want to call it, of the BEAD challenge.
What is the beach?
Yep, the BEAD challenge is a federal program which is supposed to help tie up the rest of the country that doesn't have broadband, which includes the 30+ households here in Hadley. I've been trying to get Spectrum to see if they may be willing to put a bid in with the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. I'm not sure where their mindset is right now. I've also been talking to South Hadley to see if they'd be willing in case Charter does not. Now, this is not a guarantee that if it's not me talking to South Hadley, it's not a guarantee of anyone getting fiber at this moment. It's just a conversation. So I'm pretty much waiting out on answers to see who's willing to do what and if they get word to bid. If none of that happens, there are other pots of money I've been looking into. Well, I'd like to research more into whether or not CPA can be used or affordable housing. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund yet is a viable way to get funding for this type of thing, to get these houses that are now hooked up.
So how many houses? You said
32.
Huh?
32.
32. No.
Honey Pot Cemetery, and there's one on Moody Bridge.
And there's no way to getting cable or anything to these.
Spectrum won't do it.
Spectrum will do it. Okay.
And if you watch the meeting where we had our cable hearing, our attorney explains it better than me as to why they can say they won't do it. What happens is on a cable license, Charter, Comcast, whoever is a cable provider will put on that license certain amount of aerial mileage or aerial square miles, which Hadley is at 20, of within that 20 or within that square mile, aerial square mile, they will only do 20 houses or 20 dwellings. So when you're for that one home on Moody Bridge and those homes in Cemetery Road and Honey Pot, for whatever reason they don't fall into that.
It's a money thing, they're not making enough money off of those customers.
Or the cost of bringing it to
Costing
them.
it to them, it's not.
It would be $121,000 for Spectrum to build out up there.
So it's expensive to run a coaxial cable down Cemetery Road and Honey Pot?
All about $1
Stick about
I know, with that, and not generating where, their subscriptions to $29.99 for whatever it is for their TV and their sports package. Are they making enough?
there's poles all the way out there, right?
There are.
Has to.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they came off of each line.
It took them a while to get actual electricity out there, and they finally got it. I forgot when,
Yeah.
but they have electricity out there. So there are poles out there. And I don't think the poles are the issue. It's just them getting out there and actually building out. Yeah, exactly. You're 100% on that.
So right now, we want to get them, and we want to get them access. But one of the things that Alex was looking at, so even if cable didn't do it, South Hadley could possibly do it.
With fiber spring or?
Yes.
Yes. And so the thing is with that, where would the money come from? And because of this challenge that's happening, there is money that could be out there. And can we get to that money? Because the government wants to make sure everybody has
Exactly.
an opportunity. So we want to make sure, hey, if we want to take advantage of that. And if there's money out there, use it.
And it's just for these 32 houses?
Only because they don't have anything.
Yes, that's correct. That's the whole point of the program.
It's only for those, it's not like we would create a fiber optic for everybody.
Well,
So-
that's what we're looking at too, but
That would be later down the road, I would think, Shardul. I think that'd be the goal. I think that's the goal that everyone's thinking at the table here. But right now, my focus is on those people who do not have internet in town. They're even right now they're using hotspots or satellites, which are unreliable, especially very expensive.
So like Starlink or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. The hardwired is more reliable than wireless, just like an internet connection, where with Wi-Fi it can be unstable, but if you plug in an Ethernet cable to your computer, you're more than likely to get better internet.
you want to keep going with the current project?
I got a couple more things,
Okay.
and then we can get into
The other project, for the whole town.
the records. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. Pretty much right now, we're just waiting until the end of this round to see where we're at, and that'll be around mid-February, late this month.
So the funding would be just for the study or for actual installation?
Actual installation.
And what's the projected cost for that,
That's 120.
That's 121.
for all the houses?
Yes, and then I believe there is we have to fund 25%. However, the state a while back put in that 750 million to where municipalities can actually get matching funds and don't have to go into the
Revenues?
revenues exactly.
So you're talking a little more than $30,000 that we might get matching revenue from the state,
We could,
so which could potentially drop it down, so we're looking at like a $15,000 investment.
we could. I mean, I've been speaking with our legislatures too. I've been keeping them in the loop on what's going on here. So, the conversation's happening pretty much.
Well, there's money, there's pots of it out there, right? To make sure everybody has opportunity to get this broadband. So why can't we have some of it?
Exactly. And then there's also another fund. There's also
Hilltop.
there's also
There's a hill
for
town.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
There's two of them.
And there's one more revenue source that I'd like to share, and it's AARP.
Okay.
They're willing, if we get a grant from the AARP, they're willing to fund up to $25,000 to fund the project for broadband.
Huh?
So I'm looking through all this, and it means not much, but it's better than nothing if we get one home off of 25 grand. That's
This is regular cable, or this would be the fiber optics for those 30 houses? If we're going to be doing it, we might as well do the improvements for those 30 houses and then the rest of the town catch up.
That's what
Or
you're-
would it be regular?
It-
Talking about the fiber.
Most likely.
and either fiber string or spectrum, whoever is willing to really get into the weeds of this.
Well, the fiber is gonna be, because Spectrum is just coax.
The air coax, yeah, the
And-
copper.
And their speeds are pretty much capped at, what, 400, 500, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Meaning
I don't-
fiber, you can get over a gig.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you what Spectrum does. Because I know when I had Comcast in my home, we got up to 800 upload. So it's-
800 download.
I think we got around there. I don't remember because we
Yeah.
switched to T-Mobile Home, which is just as good for us where we live.
The upload is usually a lot significantly slower.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and, I mean,
it depends what package you get. I mean,
I think what Alex alluded to earlier would be the goal would be that if they would go down the road of fiber for these 32 homes,
ready to.
then obviously that whets the appetite, it's, their foot is in the door, so to speak. We have fiber there, and now you can start branching off of that and start adding more and more properties to it.
Just the commercial properties of some time, just like us, 3 hotels, that's all fiber right
Yeah.
now. that we're basically reliant on Spectrum. Everybody else. Because I think they have some kind of a node on East Street or something like that they do. There is fiber. Charter does offer fiber.
Was that the public safety company?
It might be, because I know.
They also have they upgraded the tower there behind the East Street Theater.
So this is all something we need to start looking at for the whole town, right?
And then, yes, and then when I spoke to South Hadley the other day or last week, actually Oma called because he left me a voicemail this week. They told me that Longmeadow is funding us through the Community Compact program through the state. This also includes poll applications also. The deadline is February 6th for this year, which is weird because I'm also looking at I want to make sure the beach challenge is finished first before
Well,
we get.
if there's something that's that important, we might want to look at it a little bit. I mean, well, maybe they'll just have another one for the following year. Maybe we're just not ready for February 6th. But if there's some type of grant funding, we don't want to lose out on grant funding for a bigger project because we're waiting on this 32 houses either.
So is this Long Meadow program that they're doing, is that for the entire town?
I
Yes.
believe so, yes.
So
She has a lot.
I have,
she
I have a lot
she
of
has a
info.
thing there,
Yeah. So I started with, I hear about this all the time, like Westfield. Oh, we have the greatest, we have Whip City. We have fast internet and it's cheap, right? And it's great. So there's Whip City. And then I heard that Shutesbury was doing it. I'm like, well, Shutesbury can do something like that. What are they doing? So they work with South Hadley. So South Hadley, and I think South Hadley somewhat partnered up with Holyoke, they have a gas and electric company, just like Westfield does. Now what they did is they went to Shutesbury and did the whole town. 90%, now Shutesbury obviously is in hill towns, they don't have a lot of access, but 90% of their people actually are using this right now. What happens is they have an enterprise fund for this. The person would pay into that, their bill, so it's $60 for a resident, $85 for a business, and they would pay into that. And then from that goes into the town and into the enterprise fund and any of the expenses. So paying now for South Hadley to maintenance. You know, if something comes up, South Hadley company is the servicer. They would probably pay for the poles or whatever the expenses are. But it becomes a bill of the town. So how that would work is,
So installation was free?
no, they did probably about a $2 million, Shutesbury did about $2 million debt exclusion.
Oh, okay. So
For the town.
they funded it themselves?
They did,
Oh, okay.
yes. And then, so then they have the main poles going around, and then each time someone goes onto it, it depends. They do a subsidy, so they say this is how much, if you're just going, your house actually has, if your house actually has the fiber, you can, and you move in and you want to switch it, well, that's like a $50 switch fee, right, or something like that. If you are going to, you're going to move in and they don't have access, you can get access, and they put what a flat fee would be to get the access, and anything over that the town would cover. And that's how Shutesbury decided to do it, okay? So that, and then they would go to the poll. So that's Shutesbury. So Longmeadow, Shutesbury's had this for a little while now. Longmeadow's just going on this right now. And they did a whole, if you go to the Longmeadow, town of Longmeadow, they have this right on there under fiber optics. They did interviews. They start with setting up a fiber task force, so a group of people, and then they start interviewing all these companies. They interviewed 4 companies. They interviewed Whip City, which currently West Springfield and East Longmeadow are using Whip City. So they have the fiber, and this is who their servicer is. They then went to Go NetSpeed, And Go Net Speed services
East Hampton.
East Hampton.
And they just built up Granby.
Yeah.
Granby, yeah.
Yeah, and
I know I saw their,
in Agawam too, it said they were
But
doing.
half the problem with hearing of these types of companies, the gateways, the Go Net Speeds, they'll hook up and then they're like, okay, we're done, and they'll probably just get the main drag, and not hook up everyone else.
So,
That's the drawback.
well, it almost sounded to me almost like this was like, almost like some of these were like, I don't know. They were not, when Long Meadow interviewed them, they decided this is not for me, these types of companies. The Go Net Speed and Entry Point were the two kind of companies that did it off to the side. Whereas Whip City and South Hadley were really what they were looking for.
They're municipal,
Yeah.
and
because
they're,
they're-
and they're not going to make a profit.
Yep.
right.
Yep. So that was quite interesting. And so right now, yeah, South Hadley's got Shutesbury, Leverett. They are actually doing Leverett, and they just did the contract for Long Meadow.
This is South Hadley.
South Hadley is doing that.
What is there?
It's Fiber Spring.
Fiber
so-
Spring, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Fiber Spring part of the town's electric department?
Yes.
Yes. South Hadley Electric Light Division.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, that would seem the most,
And they're right down the road.
yeah, I mean, natural partner.
Well,
Got the right name.
Yeah, they got the Hadley.
and here's the other thing. When we're getting quotes, Alex got the quotes, it's South Hadley that came up. And they're the ones that were giving him some of the quotes for this, those 32
Well,
houses.
hold on. I didn't get quotes.
No, okay.
Charter gave me a quote or a number. They gave me a number.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a quote.
Okay, enough.
They gave me a guesstimate.
A guess.
Without coming out here, they guesstimated that it would be $121,000 and some change.
And sometimes you have to shame them. I'm not joking.
No.
There's definitely some level of shaming or legislative, political pressure, and they'll do it for nothing.
Mm.
So it's one of those things how we play it, but
Yeah. And I've been in constant contact with our legislative delegation in town, so.
because they are very sensitive to all of that stuff.
They are.
So whoever the state, their representative is, their legislative representative.
Coming from
No, for Spectrum,
Oh,
because
okay.
they probably have somebody that keeps an eye on all this stuff. We really need to go.
The Department of Cable, Telecommunications Cable, I think. That's DTC.
Right, and they have a representative that kind of talks with them. If we work through them, we might get a better number.
Okay. So the other thing is with the South Hadley, I didn't realize they're the ones that put in our municipal fiber, correct?
I would talk to the fire chief more, but he would know more. But they are kind of like the retail front of it.
So Mike did, he had it put in from the North Hadley Fire Station, right, to town, and then down Route 9 to your place, I believe, right? The fiber for the municipality that they've been talking about for a while? getting
For
all
the repeater? Yes, they did. Yeah, the repeater is on our hotel.
Okay.
And he did put fiber through it's going through our lobby. The ceiling.
So I don't really know if that is, I thought it might be South Hadley, but one more reason if it is South Hadley would be a good person.
Well, the quality of service from fiber is going to be significantly better than coax.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
if we have an opportunity to go and upgrade everybody,
yeah,
I think that would, and if it's somebody that, to your point, if it's a vendor that we're already doing business with,
right.
then it makes all the sense to just continue on that path, to go and expand it to, and not really, as you said, kind of just focus just on 32 homes when we could do every single home in municipality, business, and everything else.
Right.
Exactly, and it's a good revenue. Like we're talking, it's good revenue. It's good for the town. It could be good for our revenue problem. And then we can go into the route of Town of Otis where they actually create a program where if you can't afford internet, they will help provide you with internet. If you're in that situation.
So I think, I mean, if you look in the paper, you see it all the time. Going fiber, all these municipalities. I think Northampton's looking at starting their own, maybe even electric. Or I just saw something that they were going fiber. So I think it's the next step for us where we need to be. I think the next step would be we're gonna look to set up a task force, maybe off of something to do with what we're existing doing, you know, it's the next step. And then interview and ask all these questions and get real numbers, because how much is this gonna cost us, right? You know, how much is it gonna, if it costs Shutesbury maybe 2 million, what is it gonna cost Hadley to put up all those poles? You're fine.
Well, we already have the poles. It's probably just running the wire.
But what is it gonna cost us? And then once we start and we do an enterprise fund, we start collecting money. What is a regular expense that we're expecting? What is it gonna cost us per pole? You know, are we gonna get billed from Verizon now? Are we going to be, you know, there's a lot of questions.
Well, if South Hadley's already doing this, like I said, it makes more sense to go and kind of you see what their model is and work with them if they're, because I think it sounds like they're the ones that would do all the maintenance and.
Well, they are, but I think the poles, South Hadley would probably be the one putting up all the wires. But once that happens, the questions are going to be like, who pay? I think you have to pay Verizon for the use of their pole, having the wire, the fiber up there.
I'm saying that must be part of
That's
their
part
whole,
of their package.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's part of their whole pricing scheme. I
Yeah.
would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those would be the questions. Yeah.
Do we have access to Charter's revenue number, Spectrum's revenue number from the town? How much do they collect?
Yes. Let me just do some digging. I know Comcast, when I worked in Granby, they would tell you how much they came in from revenue for the town, and how much they had for expenses. Charter's not that transparent, but I'll do some digging.
I'm just curious as to, you know, if we're talking about negotiations, you know, what are we looking at from the business revenue side?
Yeah.
How many households are we looking at on?
Well, it's more of this would be nice, and this would give people a choice of what to do. And my thinking was, if there's any way we can use, like, so they already ran a line for the municipalities. If there's any way some of the businesses can go off of those lines, you got that down Route 9, and you can start selling this and offering it to the businesses to start with. And the businesses can start paying for some of that.
At least like you said, for as a pilot,
Right.
maybe create a fund that would offset the cost to getting it to the residents, you know, off
Yeah.
of Route 9 as it goes along.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a phased approach,
I
which
think
makes a lot of
it
sense.
takes a long time to do the whole thing, but it would be great to get started on that project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're dense. You know, think of, even though we're in Long Meadow, but Shutesbury to us is probably their density levels are probably significantly less than ours.
I think, if I recall correctly, the turning point was when the federal money became available for the rural
Broadband
Yeah,
expansion.
Yeah.
I think it's still. I believe that it must still. I think that's a priority for most administrations. I think even going forward,
Yeah,
that's probably still good. There's still probably going to be money there for that stuff.
probably. Yeah. So I think with that, and if more people end up going on fiber too, less people are using cable. That does affect things as it is. People are using less and less cable.
They are already.
So we are going to have to start to look at what are we going to do, and what are some good suggestions that we have out there, and how is Hadley Media going to make some money?
I come bearing gifts.
Oh, Nice.
All right.
Oh, my goodness, Alex.
Yes.
Alex
All
is
right.
gonna have to get on Instagram and start influencing.
You don't want that. Anyways.
Wow.
Okay, yep, so the first page is our revenue and subscriber sheet I give to y'all every year. And then we have our 5-year forecast starting at FY26. Next page is our YouTube numbers. We did have a little bit of a decrease. Mainly that's because the basketball teams didn't go to the tournament last year, so we did not get that extra.
So is this, going back to
Yeah,
kind of your point, what is this charter gross revenue? What is that?
so that's
What is
the
that?
revenue we get every year from Spectrum. So Spectrum gives us 5% of any revenue that comes from subscribers here in town.
So, yeah, but is the left number what they're getting out of Hadley, the 1.8
Correct.
million?
It's strictly happy.
There we go. There's that note.
And then as you see, I put down, okay, we're probably gonna lose I put down a projected 3% loss every year.
Now, is year 1 the most recent year, or is year 6 the most recent year?
I think this is going forward to year.
It's going forward.
Year 1.
So year 1 was last June. Year 2 is potentially this June. We don't get checks from Charter till June.
So, and their rate is going up from 4% to 5%?
Correct. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was just seeing why
So
their revenue is going down, but their income is going up, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
1 year.
1 year, yeah.
I mean, yes, we have had a couple spikes in our revenue, but as you can see, our subscribers are going down, so these spikes will only last so long. I mean, you're gonna get $0 from 0 subscribers, pretty much. So,
Are you talking about the YouTube or are you talking about Charter?
Charter.
Oh, okay.
YouTube's going up.
Okay.
In fact, I think I get 1 or 2 after every basketball game.
What do you get from YouTube? You get cash, do you get revenues? Nothing.
Nope, we're not at that stage yet, and I'm not even sure if it's even legal because we're a municipality. But I'm trying to figure that one out too.
But this is a good number just for us to understand what the potential for
Absolutely.
municipal, if we were to do a municipal fiber system.
Mhm.
We can go, at least when we're talking with whoever,
Right.
South Hadley or whoever, we can,
Well, yeah, you're
we have a
talking
number.
2 million for Shrewsbury, right? And granted, that's a lot less density, but you're looking at 1.8.
But I think that must include cable, not just fiber.
Now,
Not
Alex,
just, that's just ISP.
does this have to do with that number? Is that, so for instance, I have Charter for my cable, or
Right.
for my internet only. I don't use cable.
You don't pay into our programming.
So that, my number's not in this.
Correct. It's strictly cable subscribers.
This
so
is only people watching
only
TV.
cable. Yeah,
Cable TV.
So
It's not
gonna-
internet.
Let me tell you this: I was 8 months old when last time the Telecommunications Act was updated in February of 1996.
Okay.
And then we're also under the Cable Act of 1980. Very outdated.
So this is only cable revenue?
Only cable revenue.
Okay. Not
Correct.
including for ISP?
So if you only have internet from Charter Spectrum, you're not paying into having media service.
So if you had both, does that number reflect
Just
it here?
cable.
Well, how about the left number? We would assume the left number is going to be higher for Charter Spectrum
What do you mean?
if they're collecting for
Both.
both.
Well, this is just for cable.
This is strictly cable. We only get cable revenue. We don't get internet revenue.
Do you
or
think, you're
telephone
saying
revenue.
ISP revenue should be this, greater than this, you think?
Well, I would think they would make that number go up. Again, just thinking of leveraging, if we're looking down the road.
Well, I definitely think that number is higher, because if you look at all of Route 9, a lot of those might use Charter for something, but they're not gonna, it's gonna be internet, it's not gonna be for cable, most likely.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, let's
think
look at
so.
the bank, we use Charter, but we're not gonna watch TV.
The cable subscriptions are usually higher than,
They're gonna jack up their prices because less and less people are going to use it. So they gotta be like, okay, well, we need to generate some revenue from cable to keep up the cable system. So we're gonna have to raise rates.
Therefore, driving more people off of the system.
Exactly. Which
I got Hulu.
That's
yeah, I have two. I don't have, I'm like you, I just have them for internet.
Just
That's it.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the only way to access us is either through YouTube or the cable channels. So. Any questions about some of that stuff, or can I continue with the other stuff I have?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I brought this up at our budget meeting yesterday. It's try to get some revenue coming from our sports.
How would you do that? Okay.
The
I gotta keep
I have a
going.
whole price sheet.
Okay, I'm ready.
Subscription to,
No, it's pretty much getting sponsorships, and then I'm missing a page. I think I'm missing a page. No, I'm not. There we go. So the first page of my proposed fees are, say, if people want a digital copy of one of our programs, we would charge them.
Okay,
And then if there's any additional editing that we need to do for that person, we would charge them. And then I'd love to see something that we can actually do something for our student athletes, where we can create reels for them.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Because a lot of those could be really, really helpful for college.
Like that's the point. That's
Yeah.
the point, to send these to these college coaches and they get,
Oh, that's
But-
huge.
because
Yeah.
the thing is, well, I'm gonna tell you now, this $38.50 is not even market rate. If I were doing it privately, I'd be charging a whole lot more. But obviously, we're a municipality, we're not trying to make a profit.
Are you videoing every single varsity game at home?
Every single varsity
At
game.
home or away also?
Just home.
Just
We
home.
are trying this year. We're trying to do some league games on like Fridays or Saturdays, because there's less going on Fridays. There's no meetings on Fridays. Don't schedule a meeting on Friday, please. Whereas Monday through Thursday, there's always some sort of meeting, especially our finance, select board, planning, all them. And as you know, we do all the meetings also. So, and meetings are, even though sports is one of our most popular, we are doing meetings over anything else because that is our original intention. But I'd love to see sports grow more. So the cost of us putting together, taking 2 or 3 hours to make a sports reel for student athletes could save them thousands of dollars because they can get scholarships for being a student athlete at school.
Great. That's big.
And that's a big thing. So it's a small investment for them.
Yep, that's a great idea, Alex.
And then, so that's that. And then we'd probably have to hire on like a casual editor that would work 0 to 15 weeks.
Well,
0
you
to 15 hours per
could,
week.
something like that, I would think that might be a per diem type of thing.
Exactly.
Depending on what you had a whole bunch of people that signed on for that, you could do a lookout for some type of a per diem, yeah.
Exactly.
are these services that typically municipalities can offer? If
We're gonna look at.
adding, advertising and the like, or.
So when I talked to Linda and Mike yesterday, they were pretty receptive to it. So at some point, we're gonna bring it to the select board.
And I don't know for sure, it's a fine line and I'm not quite sure I understand it completely about municipality and earning revenue. Different places, I know we can't advertise, we can't do a lot of things. So I don't know, but even if this is an issue where we can't do a lot of these things, then a lot of, areas, instead, what they do is they have a branch where they do a friends group.
The French group, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back to when we did the elementary school fields, we couldn't sell advertising per se on the backstops or stuff like that. But we were allowed to recognize people for a limited amount of time for their donations to the project.
Yeah, like the police association will have a golf tournament, and they raise money and get sponsorships, commercial sponsorships through an association or a fire association. So I mean, it's good to look into. These are great ideas,
Yeah.
but there's always ways to have.
And this could be, at the very least, a $22,000 good idea.
Yeah,
With the potential to make more.
yeah, that's a great idea.
So, like I said, I'd love to see this happen. Look at the legalities of it. I have preliminary like how much of for example, how much a first quarter logo spot would cost.
Yeah,
And we can, yeah. So,
Well, UMass does this all the time, so.
and their state.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of wondering, they're like this now is broadcasting, but it's also private broadcasters doing it on the.
but UMass
sports.
somehow, I don't know how they do it, because they come to us and we give them sponsorships, like we'll sponsor this, or we'll sponsor, like the Zamboni has a bank's name on it somehow. They sponsor, they go out and they get advertisements. But I don't think we can.
I wonder I think there's a lot of digging we have to do in the legal part of it.
To see how to get it done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in this packet, does anyone have any other questions for me or any comments?
Well, that's just for the home teams. What about those opposing teams that you have? I mean, yesterday, Hopkins played, who did they play?
I don't remember.
Oh,
I don't
I had it on here, and what happened was, Hopkins got beat pretty bad. And I mean, the opposing team is first, so like you said, it's too bad I'm not creating a revenue, but to go into that team or that school and saying, hey, we've got videos of this game that you played. Like you said, what kind of loopholes or is there a way of creating it to going towards any type of sports or something, like you said,
Yeah,
to creating
exactly.
some sort of a revenue.
And then to keep sports just a self-sustaining thing also.
Yeah.
Like we could add on commentators, because it's hard to get volunteer commentators to actually come on.
Pioneer, they played Pioneer yesterday.
Yeah, we played Pioneer yesterday. And we could, it'd be nice to have put a voice to some of these games.
Yeah.
Whether it be a Hopkins student trying to get some extra cash, or a UMass student looking to
Build the resume.
build a resume, get some experience in, and we're right on the bus route, so it's a win-win for that.
Yep. That's great.
So,
Well, I think it could only, Hopkins would be a start, and it could possibly do really, really well, and you can do a lot with the media.
Absolutely.
And honestly, you could do other, you can even get into some of the music and help the kids with the music, send that off. Like if they needed something during one of their shows. Because that's a big deal too, when kids go for music on some of these.
Audition tape.
exactly.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
I think anything Hopkins is a go is a win-win. I think the sports is a good start.
Oh, it's huge. And then could we even help some of the other towns? And then it would be you would charge, right? I'm just saying, it's a great idea.
Absolutely. And then last thing in here is our legislation finally came out this year for our streaming bill, to where we can actually get monies from Hulu, Disney Plus, the same way we would get Charter.
Really?
Yeah, this has been going on for the past 8 years. We've been trying, or the past 4 sessions. This is the 4th session these bills are in. And then the last two things.
What's the likelihood on that? When do you think you'll hear again?
We're probably here. Well, right now we're at the stage where we're trying to get our legislators to co-sponsor. Omar Gomez is already on as a co-sponsor or co-petitioner for the House bill. I called Joe Cumberford's office to see if she would be willing to. I'm pretty sure she would. She's done it the past couple sessions. So, and I contacted my local rep too, which she sponsored it last session as well.
Yeah. And just, I couldn't, now that you have his name here, Omar, he did reach out and I did touch base with him. He would be happy to come to talk to us or talk to whatever group for fiber.
Yes, he's done East Hampton, yeah.
Yep, he did. He dealt with East Hampton stuff, and he says, "I'll come and give you all my knowledge on what we experienced." So that's great.
And for the sake of time, I'm not going to mention them. You can read them at home. I included a Hampshire Gazette article on our public hearing last week, and we have a press release going out Friday, which I'm giving you exclusive eyes on it. Just don't share it out to the media. That's all I ask. Wait till Friday at noon.
Don't put it up on the camera.
Don't put it up on the camera. Don't put it up on your bulletin board or your hotel doors there. It's good news, obviously. We're getting a national recognition. We're just waiting till Friday to tell everyone.
Okay,
And that's all I got.
that sounds
I gave
good.
you a lot of information.
Well, does anybody else have any great ideas for Hadley Media or other ways we can look at getting income? That was a surprise. Great job.
Yeah, very good. It'd be nice to have a product catalog that, eventually you could get to where people could order, if they're visiting school coach or something like that, and they can send them buy it and do whatever they want.
Hey, you know what? That's a good idea.
Especially a team like that had, they're 7-0 or 8-0 for this team Pioneer. They're going to tournament, and they'd like to be able to view all their tapes that they have instead of people having their own phones to having something like that.
Well, they could go to YouTube now.
Right.
But a lot of schools have something called Hubble. And what that does is it takes a game, you upload it to this software or whatnot, and what it does is it gives you data, it gives you stats on what's happening during the game. So it could also create highlight reels or on their end also. But we love to see if we can get this off and running, we love to see people come to us because we think we can do a better job than AI, but this is me.
All right.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome, absolutely.
We couldn't have come up with a better idea than that. So I was hoping for some ideas, but you already had it covered.
Slowly but surely, we'll get there.
All right. So I'm going to keep the Hadley Media there. Some of these other topics on the agenda, I'm going to just keep them on there so that we can just, if something comes up, we can start talking about, because this is something we have to keep thinking about, because we need to, I don't want to be behind the 8 ball and say, oh, now we have to fund out of our, general fund, we have to fund this department. We got to try to be ahead of the game.
Well, hopefully that bill passes or goes through. That's going to help.
That'll help.
Yeah, that'll help with
Yeah.
with generating more
Yeah.
revenues. I don't know how much more, but I would think it's
Yeah.
maybe it lessens the decline.
Is there anything that I'm missing that you would like to talk about next time?
The locker rooms at the high school.
Oh, okay.
I just had a question about that. Are they still doing both, or are they only doing one?
I think it's just one, but we can talk about
Because
it.
I know we had a town vote on that. That it was to be doing both locker rooms, and now it's been changed, I guess, because of finances. They're only deciding to do the girls' locker room.
Well, why don't I put it on here for school upgrades, to see where we are with school upgrades?
Because that was a town vote on that. And it was $1 million or something like that for that.
Yeah, so that would be good, but it would be good to know all the upcoming upgrades, what we're gonna be looking at for the next year.
Well, I think the question is if the town voted on something, some set of work, and then that all of a sudden that work isn't the same.
Yeah,
Does that need to be reviewed again?
Or a quote being done as to, did they think that 2 rooms could have been done for $1 million, where maybe exactly that? Does it have to be revisited for just now this one room? And was there really a cost, and as to what are they really doing? Because I went into the men's locker room yesterday for a boys game, or 2 days ago, and where the showers are, it's a big stall, it's like 8 by 10, and they have storage in it. So what's really gonna be the purpose for these money being spent on these locker rooms? To having showers being done? I heard kids aren't even taking showers anymore. So what's really the $1 million gonna be for the girls' locker room? You know,
Well, you're saying it was for both locker rooms.
right, this $1 million for the town vote was for both locker rooms.
Right.
But I'm just saying, what I'm seeing when I went into the boys' locker room, where you would take showers, it's storage there, it's cardboard boxes in that.
Well, I think
So are we investing in something that they're not gonna be showering in the first place?
Was it confirmed that it's only going to be one, and it's going to be like the same cost, but only one locker room?
I guess that's what we need to
So we're gonna-
find out as
Right, we
to,
need to determine if that's the
You can
case.
speculate a lot. I think
Yeah,
that's
tell
a
me.
different story.
yeah, so we can ask for the status and what's happening. I think we should ask for the status and what's happening on the library
For the roof?
roof.
I mean, now you're certainly a different group for procurement at that point.
Right, well, I mean, where is it? So I think that Mike Mason could probably give us some information on that. On whereabouts, what's the status, what direction are they going? To keep us updated. I also think we should probably keep updated on, I would like to know what the compensation study, we still haven't seen that.
Right.
And anything they can give us that has been finished on union negotiations. So I'm gonna ask for those for next time and keep asking until they can give us something. So we can, I know it has to be completed, but it's been a while, so.
I went about, and when it came to all these buildings being all electric, I did ask for what the power bills were for the library, them being all electric. And whether or not if this could be CPA or money for the library, because it's coming out of our pockets. You wouldn't think so, but the electric bill for the AC is cheaper than the heating bill. Does make sense. You have these vents that are as high as this. When they're running the air conditioning, cold air drops. And then after, when you have a building like this, it's not as high as the library, the hot air, it all rises. So they don't have any paddle fans, they don't have any fans here either, but at least it's not as high as what we have. To having those vents like you see and having registers pointing down. So at least the air that's there, forcing the hot air down instead of it just going out and up into these vaulted ceilings in a way of actually having that hot air, forcing it down. That's huge. Something like that, of having a contractor it's a one-shot deal, because usually when the CPA, it's one project, one finished deal, it's not a repair, it's not maintenance.
Capital.
It's right. To just saying, okay, is there any type of way, because it was like 3 times more from the heating bill as it was to the cooling bill, and we're not even talking about this year. This year's already has been so much colder than it has in the past few years.
So do they have, I'm assuming they have heat pump, but then resistant for emergency?
I don't know. I think they just have those mini splits or the big VRF systems in the back, which can do both heat and AC
Okay.
out of the same system.
But they don't have emergency electrical backup. I bet you. I would be surprised
That's
if
the
they-
thing. I don't think anybody knows when it came to the projects of that, what was being
It might be different
done.
with a building that doesn't have like overnight occupancy. I don't know. I suspect that.
That's true. There's no.
That isn't somebody's shelter. You know, that building could be, if the massive power loss, if it got really cold over these pipes, freezing in.
Yeah.
But that's just a thought, because when I was seeing the power bills for that library, it's expensive for
Yeah.
the usage, and is there a way of changing that to putting in some sort of a gooseneck or a snorkel or
Well,
down
we
to the
can-
porcelain? Just as a thought, the thinking, you know, if there is CPA money to be there, forcing that hot air down so it just doesn't go right up and it sits there and the heat's just running and running and running, try to maintain a building that's got 28-foot high ceilings,
Well,
trying to maintain it at 68 degrees.
I've heard some talk about this already in the building maintenance department, so I think that we might be, I'm not gonna add it all to the
No.
conversation right now.
But I think that we can ask for that to come up to one day on our.
I think there's a list of,
Can invite
you
Gary.
know, library-centric improvements that are already out there in addition to the roof issue.
What other improvements are out there?
Yeah, I mean, they've got the vaulted ceiling is a heat trap anyway, so.
Pending, because I don't know if they're doing solar or, well, in addition to, who knows, but we'll ask.
Yeah.
So I will put it as an agenda item,
I
so
mean,
they'll.
if we're doing the
come back.
dump, I don't see there's any reason for them to be having any solar on the library.
No.
Improvements.
No. That's the reason why you do it on the dump, because you have economies of scale. Doing it on individual buildings is not cost effective.
Agreed.
So, but we want to just double check that we're not assuming,
Well-
so I'll ask.
Well, keep the tongue out of my cheek here when you talk about net zero, but, you know, for buildings that are being built for net
Okay.
zero. But,
It's hard.
yeah.
Yeah, right
Anything
now.
else on the agenda that I should put?
Am I forgetting something?
I don't know, just looking at any other topics that you want. So, meetings, do we want, even if they don't have new numbers, I think this is good. So our times of crunch, we can focus just on the numbers right before the town meeting, but right now, when we're quiet, we can talk about all these other things. So, I think these Wednesday meetings are probably pretty good. And so today being the 15th, the next one we'll have is the 29th, correct?
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, I have a DPW meeting at 4.
We
so
will
I
be
would-
6.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Paul sends his regrets.
oh,
but he-
Yeah, I think we already had it scheduled from
Yes, from the
last
last
meeting
one.
that we had for the 29th.
29th.